Innovation Unplugged from the Alabama Community College System's Innovation Center takes you inside Alabama's workforce development. Join us for enlightening conversations with community leaders and industry experts showcasing experiences, addressing key issues, and celebrating successes in the workforce initiatives across the state. All right, welcome back. Innovation Unplugged. I am Houston Blackwood. I'm the Workforce Director for the ACCS Innovation Center. Today I have two special guests with me. I got Brandi Merrill, Director of Curriculum Design, and I got Joe Johnson, all things extraordinaire, Workforce Director at Wallace, Dothan.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, man. How are you? So, Joe, we've known each other 7 years, 8 years now. I was at Calhoun. You were at Dothan, and doing the same job, and didn't cross paths much, but we talked a lot. So it was good background there. And now in our new dynamic, you guys are one of our best every semester.
Thank you.
Always punching through new ideas and taking skills for success and doing some interesting things with it. And we'll get to all that in just a little bit. But we like for the audience to know a lot about who's sitting here, man. So give us the rundown. And you gave us some off-air information. Man, it was things I didn't know. So give us the rundown of who Joe Johnson is, how you got to where you are.
Man, I think I've got a very interesting story. Graduated from Elba High School. Really was interested in welding only because my dad was a welder growing up. Wanted to be like him. Was in a funny situation when I graduated high school. The local in Dothan, a local business sponsored a welding competition for seniors. Was taken over by my welding instructor, who was amazing. Was very fortunate to win the competition. Had it not been for that, I would not be here today. We talk about making how that, one point in time can make a huge impact with our students, even our industry partners, and their employees. But was very fortunate to win that competition. Was able to get a scholarship to Wallace to go through the welding program. Graduated as one of those kids growing up. I was very poor. I had 4 brothers and sisters, all slept in the same room growing up. And so for me, career tech welding gave me an opportunity that I obviously would not have had without the scholarship. And so had really never been anywhere growing up as a kid. Would go down to the beach once a year for 2 nights. That was it. And then from there, next thing you know, I'm traveling all over the U.S. welding, And definitely a shock. Was in the construction industry for about 20 years. Honestly got tired of traveling, wanted to come home, wanted to start a family. And next thing you know, probably against her better judgment, Dr. Young hired me at Wallace Dothan. So for about 7 years, I was over our welding programs, spent about 3.5 years on our Sparks campus in Eufaula. And as, fate would have it, the gentleman, I think, that was working at the welding supply that sponsored the welding competition 20 years prior, happened to walk in to my welding lab with a sales rep.
No way.
Oh, yeah. And so it was so amazing. We were chit-chatting kind of about our history, or my history, and kind of how I got where I was. And so we were talking about the welding competition. I was telling him how fortunate and how blessed I was to be there. And he said, well, you're not going to believe this. And so, he was that individual that was there, that they sponsored it. And so we went back to his office, and he had a photo there, believe it or not, long-haired Joe, back in the day, and so it was.
What year was this?
So 1990 was when I graduated, 1991. So it was great. And so, from there, prior to transitioning into workforce, I really just wanted to be the best welding instructor I could be, because for me, again, as I transitioned to Wallace, was very fortunate to have an amazing instructor who really wanted to focus on what it took to transition out into industry. So he prepared us very well. So that's what I wanted for my students. And next thing you know, here I am. So.
Cool story. That's where you found your passion in it.
For sure.
Yeah. Similar but different, started in the industry and then moved into education. And when you've done it and have, watched the need and watched, really kind of appreciate that career path and love to share it with others, it makes a difference when you walk in the classroom. So that's a cool story. Long-haired Joe.
It does, and it's one of those things like when we would just take a moment at the beginning of every semester with my new students, and we would kind of talk about career paths, right? Because a lot of times, good or bad individuals may judge you for what you look like at the moment, and
Sure.
maybe the way you speak. And we would kind of talk about my career path, and like I would tell them, it's not about where you're at now; it's about where you want to go, right? And we're going to help you get there. As long as you put in the work, we're going to help you get there. And so, with everything from all of our programs at Wallace, and now, like you said, with everything, that's really one of the cool things about the Skills for Success. It really ties directly to the industry needs. And so as our instructors come in and they go through obviously as those students go through the theory, but then the hands-on really gives them a great glimpse into what they can look forward to, in the future when they transition to the workforce.
I think community college instructors in general probably have the most opportunity to interact with our students in that kind of way. And maybe sometimes, unfortunately, maybe that is the first time anyone's ever really poured into them like that and said, hey, here is a path and here is the way to do it. Because I did it. I didn't intend to grow up in education, but here's how I found myself coming out of industry, and now I want to share that with you. So I think we have the, kind of the resources and the best model, I think, to reach those in our community. And it's not that you couldn't do that at a higher institution. It's different when you've got 350 people in a room, and, so trying to really kind of establish those relationships. And I think that just makes us, that's why, that's why we are part of the community. And that's why we're the, workforce training engine of the state, is because we sit and make those relationships at the community, level like that. Yeah. It's really cool.
So you said you got out of the workforce as a welder because you was tired of the travel, which when I can imagine, and you got out of industry to teach.
I did.
Like, did they recruit you, or did you just decide to do that yourself?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
I was ready. I was tired of taking call.
Yeah.
So, sleepless nights, yours on the road, mine just happened to be, not too far from the house, but still, after you've been called out 3 or 4 times a night after, several years, you kind of get tired of it.
So Joe, still doing workforce, and you're trying to fill these new programs with a good instructor, and often the best instructors are the ones out there still doing it because they've seen all the fresh methods, fresh material, fresh equipment, but they make a lot more money than the college system will pay. How do you get those guys to come work for you?
For me, I really talk to them about my path, and yes, we're going to make quite a bit more money in the industry, right? But the opportunity to give back, because most of the young men and young women that are out there that may be looking to transition into education or to teaching, it's about giving back. Like for me, like I said before, there's no doubt I would not be sitting here today had it not been for my high school welding instructor, had it not been for my college instructor, right, pouring into me. So an opportunity to give back. And so, and we talk about, when you make that connection with a student, right, and you're sitting there and you're talking about maybe your theory, right, your content about whatever it is that you're going over that day in the lab, and you can use your industry experience to connect those dots, right? And say, well, hey, when I was in industry, this happened, this scenario, this is why you need to know this. And in this instantly, you can see the light go off, right? And they really kind of perk up and set up in their seats and pay attention and are very much engaged. So it's really about, obviously, it's not about the money. We all joke about that. But, in education, it's not about the money. It's definitely about giving back to those students and making that impact, because I dare say all of our instructors, somebody made an impact on them. That's why they're there.
I definitely say we have better benefits, though. Our benefits are really good.
They are.
Our retirement is really good.
Yeah, if you're tier
our
1,
health insurance is really good.
Yeah, the tier 2 people some years ago, they got pushed in the mud. but I think the legislative body came back and fixed that. They realized that it looked good on paper and then it didn't work well.
Right.
So they actually merged them all into tier 3, which is really close to tier 1.
Yeah.
So Joe, you're talking about that, having that impact, and that's how you recruit those instructors. You don't have to give names, but tell us about the best story you had about, and not bragging on yourself, but the best impact you ever realized that had been made on a student out of one of your programs.
Well, I mean, it could be really a couple, because we would talk to our students is my job, I felt like, was to give our students options, right? And success is whatever you deem it to be.
Yeah.
So if working at home, supporting your family, being home every night, if that is success for you, obviously not, let's say, making as much money as if you would if you travel, but if that's success to you, then hey, I'm extremely happy for you. Or if you were like me, you thought success was getting as far away from home as you could, right? And quote unquote, making as much money as you could.
Sure.
But as you grow older, you realize that money is not everything, right? And so, but two quick stories. A young man that knew he did not want to travel, wanted to work at home, went through our short certificate and actually taught for us for a short time.
Oh,
yeah. And I feel so sorry for my first semester students because I come
me
in
too.
like guns ablazing, thinking that, I could just open their head and pour all of my knowledge in there, and so, but one of my first semester students now is a recent hire at the college. He transitioned into the workforce, traveled all over the U.S. working, and so now he's back as an instructor. And so, we have those conversations about why we did what we did in the classrooms and why we did in the lab and how he didn't realize the importance until he got in the workforce, right? And then now he's coming back teaching our students those same things and all the new things that he's learned, So those are two pretty cool stories.
I love it when you can see that torch pass. You were able to pour into him, and now he's able to pour into others. It's cool.
It is. It's awesome.
Do you ever go jump back in the booth and show these kids how it's done? Like you're just walking by, you got this coat and tie on today, but you walk by and you're like, hey, let me show you something, kid.
We do. We have a nighttime industrial welding class. It's a 12-week class, really geared toward getting individuals prepared to go to work there locally. A lot of MIG welding and some stick welding. And so, we'll get in there and I'll talk to most of our classes our very first night and kind of talk about expectations. And I'll drop by, and so again, because depending on the day at work, I may be dressed like this, I may not, but then when they see me dressed like this, but then I walk back in, with some work boots and blue jeans and welding shirt on or whatever, it's a good thing.
Let me ask you a question. So I know you're an athlete. You played some JUCO ball, and you put that uniform on, and you played some ball too
in high school.
Yeah. You put that uniform on, and it's a mental shift, right? Like it's game time. So when you jump out of that suit, it's a very nice suit, by the way.
Thank you.
I've always been envious of your style.
I
say
wore
that on there
just for you today.
Well, we appreciate that. But when you jump out of that suit and you do put that welding shirt back on and put your steel toes back on, does that flip a switch for you?
I mean, growing up, and I don't know if it's something that's kind of instilled in you, if you're just is innate, but I've always wanted to be, regardless. I mean, we could be playing checkers, and I want to be the best checker player, right? I get in the welding booth, I want to be by far the best welder. I get on a job site, I wanted to be the best welder there. Same thing, transitioned. Like I would tell, again, the young man that's working at Wallace now, I just wanted to be the best welding instructor when I started. That was it. I mean, I wanted to be the best welding instructor in the state, wanted to have the best graduates in the state. And I think if you take that mindset with your students and everything that you do, great things are going to happen, So
I agree.
Yeah, and I knew that about you. And man to man, I saw that competitive streak in you. And so I had the same feeling. I'm like, well, whatever Joe's doing, I'm going to do it better. And we've talked about that on the show. But I have that with Leah,
right.
and I still have that with Doug, who succeeded me at Calhoun. I'm like, I'm going to do something better than he can do. But that's just how guys are. But you've always been that way. And even though we've disagreed on some different strategies before, you've always been looking out for the best way to do it and with the biggest outcome for your students and then biggest outcome for your departments. I've always respected that.
Thank you.
And you've got some pretty cool stuff going on. We were just talking the other day, and I owe you a document that I just got the update for, but you've got a really cool project going down there. Is it Housing Authority?
Yes.
Tell us about that. And tell us about where it came from and all the things you've done to make it go.
I think everything that we do, so much of what we do is about relationships, right? You and I, Brandi, we've talked about it before. Our industry people, they're so busy every day, right? Trying to survive, right? Run their business. And then when you have one of us that comes knocking at the door, sends an email and says we have all these great things to offer, when they give us 5 minutes of their time, we have to make it worthwhile, right? Make a big impact. So thankfully, through some relationships and partnerships with the Housing Authority, we were able to sit down and really, I think they participated in some OSHA training to begin with, just some very standardized training. And then from there, we just started having conversations about training for some of their maintenance employees, and that can look like everything from plumbing to electrical to carpentry. And so really that's what we did. We sat down. Our first phase, we're in the process of we're finished with the course outline for the plumbing. I mean, everything you can imagine. If you go into an apartment, and what they're looking for is their maintenance technicians to be able to go in and something as simple as replacing a faucet, but it may be again replacing a water heater, replacing a tub, and replacing a sink, whatever. And obviously, when you're replacing a toilet, there's so much that could just go into that, right? When you pull that up, what are you gonna, what are you gonna face,
telling.
right? Is it a subfloor? Is it a concrete slab? And so they're giving us an opportunity to provide some training for them, and it'll be great. Right now, we're looking at plumbing initially and then transition into some electrical, but it's a great feeling, honestly, and I'll say this, I'll kind of preface by saying I think I am very fortunate and very blessed to work in the community, in the Wiregrass, because everybody seems to pull in the same direction. And if they see that you are putting your best foot forward and trying to do good things, they're going to work with you, right? And so, again, just having an opportunity to work with the Housing Authority. So we're looking forward to some good things.
And you're doing that for the Housing Authority employees.
Correct.
But
That's correct.
I know that in the back of your mind, you're thinking, as soon as I get done with this project, I'm going to get all the kinks worked out. I'm going to turn this around for the residents.
For sure.
In some cases.
For sure. And even for us, because right now we don't have the space, or did not have the space, to offer like a construction program. So even prior to this, we were partnering with our local, some of our local career tech centers, and utilizing their building construction labs at night to teach entry-level residential carpentry with the Alabama Home Builders Association. So again, just trying to be creative. Again, I think another great example of being in the community and everybody kind of pulling in the same direction, because could have been so easy for Dr. Coe there in Dothan to say no, right? It's not a great fit. We really don't think that would work, but they didn't. So many great people there. They opened their arms to us and allowed us to use their facility at no cost, right? And so, when you have those partnerships and those relationships, great things can happen.
Well, and I think we've seen that with the 2 courses that you've worked on with us, where y'all have piloted, and the first one was fiber, and then the next one is going to be forklift.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you came to us with that need from K-12. How did you get to that point?
Well, again, goes back to relationships, because you've got, the career tech directors there that obviously they're looking for their graduates to be employed, whether if it's co-op situations while they're in school or transitioning after they graduate, into the workforce. And as we've all talked about, we want to make sure whatever training that we put an individual through, it's really going to mimic and mirror our industry standards, right? And that's why, again, it maybe takes us a little while to develop something, but at the end of the day, when it's developed, we want our industry partners, when Joe graduates a course or a training, if you will, and they hire me, even if it's part-time, we want them to be able to see the skill in everything that we do, because again, if they do, they're going to come back and they're going to trust us, right? So
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know we're developing that course, and we've got the lab concept, but you mentioned right away about making this a pretty interactive course, not just the OSHA standard, here's the parts, here's the safety, let's run around this thing and call it a day.
Right.
You had some pretty interesting ideas about how to do that.
Well, and it's again going back and putting because when I left the industry, as far as managing projects, and you hope and you wish what an individual, even if they're new, right? You understand coming in, if they're green, as we call it, but at the same time hoping that they have a certain level of understanding. And I just know, we're talking with some of our businesses around town, when an individual comes in, if they say they've got some forklift experience, it's more than just, being able to get under a pallet and run around with it, 12 inches off the floor. It's, everything from, okay, when you look at a pallet, is it palletized correctly? Should you even try to pick it up, right, before you even get your forks under it? And then from there, obviously a lot of our places, you're having to pick pallets from heights. You're having to pick them, you're having to set them. So those are one of the things that as we were talking with our partners with ATN, and as we were starting to have conversations, those were the things that I really wanted to see, because I think that's some of the things that's going to make our graduates or our completers very valuable to our industry partners.
Absolutely.
When they finish.
It's also stuff that we can target as we go out and film, right? And so for new listeners or listeners that just don't know, that's one of the things that makes our courses very unique, is that we take those concepts and say, okay, what is the need to know information that a new employee, new into the industry, green, would need to know? And then when we go on site and film, we're capturing all of that goodness, from real workers on site, here in Alabama. So that's a really cool perspective, to be able to kind of drive those points home and make it really, really relevant, because there's a lot of training out there. And there's so many things that aren't relevant, I mean, having taught, and we've all taught, is that there's chapters of this and things of that, skip that, don't do that, but that's right. Ultimately that's what these courses are there to do, is only provide exactly what you need to know, get it quickly, show us you learned how to do it. Now be proficient and go out and, make a great living. So,
and I think that's even like with the forklift, but even when we were developing the fiber, when I think that our industry partners, and I call it the Alabama Fire Diversion, right? Because we want it to really make sure it reflects everything that's needed in our great state.
We do too.
And it's one of those things that your industry partners, when they see that, it's easier to get them at the table, right? Because they're busy right now, obviously, but it's easier to get them at the table to serve on a task force.
Yes.
And then that way, because they know they're pouring into it, because at the end of the day, they're going to reap those rewards, So it's a really cool concept. And obviously, there's been a lot of success statewide.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that forklift, we mentioned that, I forget where we were. I've been in a Zoom call, like one of those regional calls, but I mentioned, hey, we just had this conversation. You had asked for it, and I'm like, hey, Joe asked, and I know that you guys all see the same thing. How is it going to look if we can develop this forklift for you? Because that's one of those things. It's like welding and CDL. Everybody kind of has their own version of it. Correct. And so when we wade into this mess, we're going to do it for you. It's like, oh gosh, here they go again.
What's the message?
Yeah, but like, how do we say? But anyway, I'll ask those guys, how does it look to you if we help build one that you guys can all use? And then I asked, does anybody have one that they spent time and money creating? And so they were all like, we've got one, but we didn't make it. And they wanted it. So I was really happy about that. Yeah. And that's one of those things, like, it's such a basic, and it's not hard, but man, to get that right.
That's right.
You mentioned earlier how that course is being developed. Of course, we're involved in it too, but Dothan and ATN are working on this. That hasn't happened very often. Tell me about that.
Again, just from a partnership perspective, and obviously everything that ATN produces and provides is obviously a quality product. Obviously, they have great subject matter experts when it comes to their engineers that are teaching these courses. So I think it's a great collaboration, because you're able to tap into their industry expertise. I probably have zero expertise, but I'm just kind of there getting in the way, But, having those industry people at the table and being able to navigate that. So I think that's one of the great things about, working in the community college system between ACCS and all of our different workforce partners around the state at each college, but at the same time, ATN, being able to work together for the better of the overall workforce, right? Because that's what we're here for. Yeah. I know workforce is a very general term, but at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We want, whether if it's health science or or career tech or an existing employee, we want that individual to be as well and highly trained as we can when they leave our programs.
Absolutely.
Yep. And you guys do that very well. early on, y'all jumped on the Skills for Success train with your line workers. I think that was one of the first ones, like for CDL.
Mhm.
Is that? And we've slept a lot. How has it been for you guys? It was you and Keisha, and you had one other person there,
Mhm.
and now you've got like 20 people that work for you. Not really, but you've added staff. How has that process been for you, running Skills for Success, and keeping that standard high? Because there's a chance to water it down if you're not careful. How has it been for you meet those industry needs, keeping it a high standard, running a tight ship?
Well, first I'd say I am very, very fortunate and blessed to have the team that we have, right? We've grown, obviously, with our successes over the last several years. Shameless plug for Dr. Young and Dr. Wilkins. They're amazing. I mean, because they give our team and workforce all the tools that we need to be successful. Now, at the same time, they set a very high standard and a very high bar, right, with expectations and what we provide and produce. So very fortunate there. But yeah, I mean, Keisha's amazing, our entire team, but she really, and we all joke about it, she runs everything back at home for us. I mean, she does. And as we joke in our meetings, and if y'all have a question, and I'm like, I don't know, let me go ask Keisha, you know? And so
She's your phone a friend.
She definitely is. And, you know, and we talk about it a lot. We were joking actually this week about, they all joke that I'm kind of out meeting and selling and those relationships, and they're back there, you know, really scheduling and keeping everything going. And so I think it goes back to your team because, from the top down, we all understand the expectations of a quality program. And again, at the end of the day, the last thing, like we were talking about with the forklift, is watering something down to where I think that's the worst thing we can do, because obviously once our graduates complete and go out into the workforce, if it's not what our workforce is looking for, they're going to be extremely disappointed in us, right? And they're not going to come back to the table. So they do a wonderful job there. And I'll look at our calendar sometimes, you know, it's just, you know, with Skills for Success, and our month of March and April was so crazy with all the training that we had on campuses for high schools. And some of them would even come to us, you know, for depending on if it was fiber or heavy equipment or whatever the case would be. But yeah, so.
Meeting that industry standard and keeping it so they want to come back. You deal with a nuclear plant down there.
We do.
A lot.
Yes.
They do a lot of business. And I don't remember the first time they said, hey, let's run it one time and see how it goes, whatever. But that's a huge customer. Obviously, it needs to be right every time. What's your process to make sure that you keep it at this level?
Well, I think, you know, again, that just kind of happened by happenstance. They dropped by to see if they could borrow some of the electrical trainers that we use in some of our maintenance training. And as we were there and they were looking at some of the equipment, I was like, oh, hey, by the way, we've got some cool fiber training that we're about to roll out. And that's where it started, really. And we sent the content to them to look at. And so, yeah, now, thankfully, I think we've trained roughly 36 in our first cohort with them.
Yeah. Wow.
Amazing. And so now, again, because of the quality of the product, right, and our wonderful instructors, now they are making that a part of their annual training. So it's amazing, you know. So now all of their new employees and even the employees that are going through their training annually, they go through the fiber training. And because everybody has a different need, and like they were saying, when they're in there, maybe they have a contractor doing some work, maybe the contractor doesn't take the best care of the equipment inside the facility, right, as maybe an employee does. Per them, and like they said, having an employee there that knew the standards, right? Everything from, again, how do you splice fiber? You know, I mean, everything with the equipment was extremely beneficial, you know, and very helpful. And so with them, and then the same way with you were talking about kicking off our CDL. Quite some time ago with the city of Dothan. Now, because the program is so great and the instructors have done a wonderful job, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, over a year we've trained over 60 some odd for the city and the county. And right now we've got 100% pass rate, you know, and it's amazing.
Fantastic.
And all of their employees that come in, I think they have 90 days, if I'm not mistaken, to get their CDLs. So they just go into a training rotation with us, you know. So it's a wonderful partnership.
Where do your CDL students test? Are the state troopers?
They do at the state troopers, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I thought
We
so.
are hopefully in the process of maybe some expansion,
Yeah.
and our goal is to, if we're able to expand, then hopefully become a third-party test site or something to be able, because for us right now, that's kind of where the bottleneck is
It is, for
obviously,
sure.
with the testing piece of it. And so you want those individuals to test as quickly as you can after they finish their behind the wheel. But at times there's several weeks in between there, and we'll bring them back in for a quick refresher, before they transition. Typically the day before they'll go through a quick refresher because most of the time they're nervous, right? They've not
Absolutely.
gone through any training for a couple of weeks, and so it's worked out well.
Yeah.
That's good. We've talked about that CDL reimbursement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know we set it up a way. We had some really good data. Aaliyah changed our model a little bit. And so then the funding didn't make sense, but we were kind of stuck with that for a while. But we've got really good plan right now to increase that 2,000, 2,250. I don't think we'll get to 2,500, but just know that's coming.
Awesome.
Like that's a real thing for the
Yeah,
fall.
that's
Like,
awesome.
we've got a whole list of reimbursements like for all the new courses too.
Mhm.
But that's on the way to make that a little bit better for y'all.
Mhm.
Not a little bit; it's a lot better.
For sure.
And it kind of helps fit that need.
I think that's one thing that we love doing is kind of like looking at a situation and saying, how can we either make that better or how can we tweak it to modify? So I'm going to throw a curveball at you. Let's play the what if game. What if Skills for Success didn't exist for you? For Joe Johnson and Wallace Dothan, what would your footprint on the city of Dothan and the Wiregrass area look like had Skills for Success never come along?
Extremely limited, for sure. I mean, it has definitely been a means to an end for us because y'all know standing up a CDL program, right? How expensive that is. And one, it's kind of the chicken or the egg. You've got to have the equipment, but at the same time, you need to be able to prove that you can sustain a program. So how do you do that, right? So, and obviously, we were very fortunate with being able to get a truck and a trailer from ACCS, right, to start. And so we were able to do a lot with that, and even partnering with the city of Dothan. Obviously, they provide equipment for us to train on. But that's one of the great stories, I think, as far as the Skills for Success has been, is what it's enabled us to do for the city and the county for us, and even there locally, from like you were talking about before, with Farley, with the city of Dothan, with Houston County Road and Bridge, and even right up the road for P River Electric. They've put, if I'm not mistaken, all of their linemen through the fiber course.
Yep.
Some of their individuals and which was, I think, a pretty cool viewpoint, but even like their call center, like they said, maybe an individual maybe kind of reads off a script, if you will, may have never really seen any of the parts that or in depth anyway, but being able to put them through the theory, but also the 2 days of hands-on training with everything from the termination, the splicing, the troubleshooting, all of that makes things make a little more sense, right? And so when you're talking to a person on the phone, so I mean, you look at those 3 or 4 partnerships there solely because of the Skills for Success, right? So it's been an amazing opportunity for us in our community.
That's a good answer to a curveball.
It is. 'Cause, we don't script these questions like, on purpose. Like that's on purpose.
I don't
So-
even make notes. Houston makes
Yeah.
notes. I
Oh,
just
I'm
get to
just-
sit here and
I'm writing
think
out
them
my
up.
grocery list. No, so Skills for Success, obviously, we could talk about that for days with you, Joe, but we also, when we bring you guys on, we want to know what else you got going on. Because
Yeah.
believe it or not, there are other things besides SFS. So what else is going on at Dothan? Big programs, 4-credit, non-credit. What are you pushing? What's big?
Obviously we're in a healthcare hub in Dothan, so we have an amazing healthcare programs there. CTE is wonderful. Our Dean of Career Tech, Miss Martha Compton, she does an amazing job with all things career tech, growing all of our programs. Been very fortunate. She's received quite a few grants to be able to upgrade equipment because obviously, for students to go out and be successful, they need to be training on the latest and the greatest, right? So she's done a wonderful job with that. We work very well together because, again, the reason we can do what we do, to use some of our educational jargon, but on the non-credit side, we share spaces, right? So again, industrial welding, we're very fortunate to be able to run a non-credit nighttime course when the daytime's not using their labs, right? Same thing we're going to do with this Dothan Housing Authority partnership. We're going to be able to utilize the electrical lab at night when they're not using it, right? So again, just I think, but that goes back to a great return on investment from taxpayer dollars,
Absolutely.
right? You know, not having to duplicate everything, that we're able to share spaces. So
utilizing resources.
there you go.
I mean, you know, we're all taxpayers, and, you know, sometimes you do see, not in the state of Alabama, in other states, you see underutilization, right, of lots of things, whether it's buildings or resources or whatever it is. So that's a really cool thing, you know, to kind of watch that happen and make it better.
But I
Love
think,
that.
you know, we were talking about that earlier, but I think that begins from the top down, like you said, with Dr. Young and Dr. Wilkins, with the expectation, again, we're there to serve the community, right? Because without, you know, we are, no pun intended, we're the community's college.
Yeah.
And so being able to utilize our resources for the betterment of the community, that's what they're all about, whatever that needs to look like, right? So it's really good having that support from them both. So.
Yeah.
What's the one program you'd like to start? Assuming there was a need for it.
He gets a third.
Oh, goodness.
All right, you get to write the script.
No, not even skills for success. Like, what's the general industry training that you would love to provide that it just doesn't have a solution right now?
Well, I don't know if I think it's really probably just developing things out a little bit more that we already have, right? When it comes to maintenance and automation, right? I think those are the key things, because I think from a healthcare side, just because of the Alabama Board of Nursing and ADPH, they're obviously meeting all of those guidelines and expectations for the most part, right? I'm saying that, and I have no knowledge of what they do in healthcare, so I'm sorry. So Dean Button, if I'm wrong with that, I'm sorry. So, but I think from a career tech side, with so much being automation, I'm kind of looking forward. Well, I'm very much looking forward to, like, with what's going on with the hybrid technology, with the EVs and everything, whether it be the charging stations or whatever. Because again, there in Eufaula, obviously that is a very busy throughway there on the way to the beach. So they're putting in, I know, quite a few charging stations. So looking at that, I'm excited about that. Maybe standing up a program to be able to support the charging stations, because install is one thing, but supporting and maintaining is another. So
we've heard that. What if I shouldn't say this out loud. What if we told you that we were asked to get into the welding preparation for welding, not welding associates, and not the level of welding that you teach every day, but some level of pre-welding training. How would that look for you?
I mean, I think that's a great thing. It's really about fundamentals. I mean, you know, I would joke with my students, because when you talk about academics, most of them put their hands up. You know, they think they're allergic to math and speech and English and all that good stuff. And we would explain to them, you know, in my role before I left, you know, why I needed math, why I needed speech, why I needed English, you know, and our computer courses. And so I think without them even realizing, we were talking about the math and geometry with welding, a lot of what we do is about work angle, travel angle, arc length, which is really just math, right? You talk about, you may have a joint that's 90 degrees and you need to put your first pass in at a 45. Well, you're not going to be there with a protractor. You know, what's 45? You got to be able to feel that, right? And that's where your instruction and repetition goes in. So it's really a lot of fundamentals, regardless of what you're doing. So I think it'd be great.
I would have said the same thing if I were sitting in that seat and he had asked me that question. And, well, how would you feel if, you know, we developed a skills for success, you know, for incoming ultrasound people? I would have been like, there's so much more opportunity for me to focus in the classroom on other things other than potentially catching up a student with that foundational piece. So there's so much preload, you know, opportunity that can be there, so that then, you know, the whether it's CTE or whether it's workforce, however the course is being administered and whoever it's being administered by, is just knowing that that foundational knowledge is there. And then that instructor can spend more time focusing on the core principles of what that, whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good question.
I mean, perfect, I guess, I think, opportunity segue. We got a phone call from Michelin the other day, right? Their employees, obviously, to your point, not the standard that we teach in those multiple 10, 12, 2 semesters, 18-month courses, but they need some welding training. So if there was something that was developed, because again, it's very high level, right? It's very short term. They only need to know a certain amount of things, but those things are basic fundamentals, right? Regardless of what process you're using. So, and you go back to like with the community, we have a Con Ed course called Intro to Welding, and it's geared for people in the community, for farmers.
Absolutely.
And it's really just very high level, right? Because to, your point off air, wanting to work on maybe some of your own stuff, right? But, it's again, thinking about I say the 3 Ds, dark, dirty, and dangerous, right? Welding's not necessarily that anymore, but you have to understand what you need to do safely. And so creating something short term, I think would have a huge impact on everything from the business and the industry that need to know that from a high level, and even the community from farming and different people like that,
And so that the pitch that we got, a request, was from an existing program for a national company, and then the existing program has been proven successful, but they need it to expand a little bit and be a little bit quicker. And so they need this skills for success model to their, so, but when I was at Calhoun, we had that same Con Ed class, and we called it basic welding, and Zeb Ferguson taught it. And we had always had a farmer, we always had some car guys, we had a female artist, and then one random kid who just didn't want to take the degree program, but he just wanted to know how to stick stuff together.
Right. There you go.
And it was the most fun. And we did that with stick, and then the advanced was MIG and TIG. And it was like 5 nights each time, about 20 hours each run, and get after it.
That's right.
So it's good stuff. So that being said, Joe, we are almost out of time today. We appreciate you making the long drive here. It's what, 3 hours from Troy?
Just about.
So it's 6 hours for 1 hour of fun, 47 minutes of fun. But
it was worth it though, right?
Yeah. Definitely. Thank y'all for having me, for sure.
There's so many things that you guys do down there. What are your final thoughts for us, for the people that watch this and hear what you say? What do you want them to know about Joe Johnson and Wallace Dothan?
I think we're always striving to put our best foot forward, right? And whatever that means for community, whether it means for our high school partners, industry partners, whatever the case may be, knowing that we're going to be there. We can't be in all places at one time, but just knowing that we're a phone call or an email away, and that we're, our team, and when I say our team, the entire Wallace Dothan team will be there to do whatever we have to do to meet your workforce needs in whatever sector you're in. So we're just, again, we talked about it earlier, being the community's college, and I truly believe that. So thankful to have an opportunity to be a small part of it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks for listening today. And if you don't subscribe, go do that. We are on all platforms, so like, subscribe, and follow. Thank you for listening.